Salam guys, I've always said that to become wealthy, it makes a lot of sense to look at what the wealthy do. And if you look at what the wealthy do, I think you're going to inevitably notice that the wealthy, in addition to working in businesses, they also own businesses and let other people who work in those businesses build wealth for them. Fortunately, we live in a time when owning a business has never been easier. And you can do so through owning shares in a company, also known as a company's stock. Now, in order to own a company's stock, you have to have a brokerage account. A brokerage account to stocks is what a checking account is to cash. You keep your cash in your checking account, you keep your stocks in your brokerage account. Now, I've received a number of questions asking me what broker I use to buy my stocks. And in this video, I'm going to cover exactly this topic, so stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum, my name is Rakan Kayali and welcome to Practical Islamic Finance, where we try to understand financial matters and build wealth in a way that is in line with Islamic principles. If you need halal funding and you live in the United States, make sure to go to fundmebff.com and apply for funding. Alternatively, if you're an investor and you're looking for an alternative investment that has little correlation with the stock market and for the past 3 years has had a risk-adjusted return that was superior to all of the major asset classes, and you earn more than $200,000 annually, go to fundmebff.com and apply to become an investor. The 3 brokerages that I'm going to review are all brokerages that I have experience with, and they are Fidelity, M1 Finance, and Robinhood. Now let's talk about what makes the 3 brokers that I'm going to review unique. And let's start with Fidelity. So I've actually used Fidelity for the last 10 years. My biggest investment accounts are with Fidelity, so I'm intimately familiar with their service. Some of the pros and cons of Fidelity as I see it are, first starting with the pros. Number 1, their customer service is really good. You can call Fidelity's customer service and you'll be connected with an actual person who typically knows what they're talking about, and they'll stay with you on the phone until you get the answer to whatever question you have or your issue is resolved. So in this respect, they are unique compared to some of the more recent investment services and brokerages that have popped up in the last few years. I will warn you though that when you call their customer service, especially nowadays with all the volatility in the stock market, you're probably going to wait for a while until you're connected with an actual person. But once you're connected, typically you get really good service. The second positive of Fidelity's brokerage, or pro of Fidelity, is the quality of their order execution. And what I mean by quality of order execution is how favorable is the price that you get when you're buying or selling shares in a company. Something that's important to understand is that when you use different brokers, you're probably not going to get the same price for a particular share, even if you're buying or selling at the exact same time. And the reason for this is that different brokers use different market makers. And the market makers, in order to attract brokers, in order to attract deal flow from brokers, they will offer brokers one of 2 things. Either price improvement that basically benefits the broker's customers, or payment for order flow, which benefits the broker themselves. The more payment for order flow or profit that the broker makes, the less price improvement the broker is able to pass on to their customers. And the opposite is true as well. The more price improvement the broker offers its customers, the less profit it's going to make from deal flow that it routes to different market makers. So basically, brokers have a choice. They either profit more from the deal flow that their customers are generating, or they provide their customers with more favorable prices whenever they execute a trade. So there's a balance that every broker has to strike. And in the case of Fidelity, they collect 0 profit from order flow, which means that as a customer, you're probably going to get the most favorable price you're going to get anywhere else when you use Fidelity, either to buy stock in a company or when you're selling stock in a company. So that's a really big feature that Fidelity has. And this is why recently stockbrokers.com rated Fidelity number one in order execution. The third pro of Fidelity is their track record. Fidelity's discount brokerage was started in 1978, so they've been through a lot of recessions, a lot of market crashes, and they're still around. So they have a good track record of being able to weather any type of market situation, and I think that's a big positive if you're looking to park your money with a particular brokerage for the long term. Some of the cons of Fidelity's brokerage service or drawbacks are, first, they automatically invest whatever cash that you have in your account into interest-bearing accounts. So to get around this, I basically make sure that I'm always 100% invested with whatever money I have in my brokerage account. And this is made easier by the fact that you can purchase fractional shares. And whatever cash I don't want to have invested at that particular time, I just pull out of my investment accounts. And then the second drawback of Fidelity's brokerage is the fact that I'm not really a big fan of their user interface. I know that there are some commentators online that were raving about their user interface, but for me, I just find it a bit bulky. There's a tad too many clicks that you have to make in order to get to where you want to go. And I think for someone who is new to their user interface, the learning curve is going to be quite steep. So I do think that there's a lot of area for improvement in terms of making their user interface a lot more simple and a lot more clean. Right now, it's really crowded. So my recommendation regarding Fidelity is that it is a solid choice, especially if you have larger investment accounts or retirement accounts and you're trying to choose which brokerage to use. I've had good experience with Fidelity, and I think it's a solid choice as a broker. The second broker that I'm going to review is M1 Finance. Now, before I start my review, I should tell you that I do have a link in the description to this video. If you click on the link to sign up for M1 Finance, I will get a small commission. So if you do find this video beneficial, you would like to use M1 Finance, I'd appreciate if you use the link in the description when you sign up. And I'll try to be as objective as I can when I'm reviewing M1 Finance. So let's get started. M1 Finance is the best broker in the world. Just kidding. Let's start with the pros of M1 Finance. So the pros of M1 Finance as I see it, and the reason why I decided to be affiliated with M1 Finance as opposed to any other of the stock investing apps that are out there, and there are many. The reason why I chose M1 Finance is because it's clearly designed for long-term investing and it promotes good investment habits. And I say this because of its unique approach to investing. So when you sign up to M1 Finance, you basically specify the portfolio that you want to invest in. So let's say, just as an example, you specify a portfolio that's 33% Tesla, 33% Nvidia, and 33% Amazon. So after you specify that portfolio, they call it a pie. After you specify that portfolio, any money that you add to your M1 Finance account will be invested into that pie that you specified according to the percentages that you specified. Another positive of M1 Finance, aside from their portfolio approach to investing, is that it is simply incompatible with people who want to actively trade. And the reason for this is because M1 Finance executes all trades at the same time of day. This means that investors are never caught in the trap of trying to time the market, getting out and in of their positions frequently, trying to take advantage of small intraday movements in prices. I think this is crucially important because it forces investors to focus on the long term and not try to make a quick buck through getting in and out of a certain stock position. Because research has shown definitively that for the vast majority of people, the more they trade, the lower their returns. And I do believe that getting into the right habits is about setup. So if you want to start eating healthy, you don't fill up your fridge with unhealthy food because you're basically tempting yourself by doing that. If all you have to eat is healthy food, chances are that's what you're going to eat. You're going to improve on the quality of food that you intake. Similarly, I think that the way the M1 Finance service is designed It promotes healthy investment habits that force investors to focus on the long term and ignore the temptation to try to capitalize on short-term fluctuations in price. And then finally, as it relates to the pros of M1 Finance, I think they have a really simple, user-friendly user interface, both on their website and their mobile app, which is especially useful if someone is new to investing. I personally needed only a day to get really comfortable with both their website and their app. And there are a ton of online tutorials that walk you through the ins and outs of both their app and their web application. The cons of M1 Finance, or the drawbacks, are number one, their youth. They launched in 2016. So given their relative youth, I wouldn't be comfortable allocating a large investment account to M1 Finance. And then the second drawback I would say would be the support. As I mentioned, I like to talk with an actual person whenever I have an issue or have a question. And with M1 Finance, they have a support page and you can submit a ticket basically, and then they'll follow up with you on the ticket that you submitted. Although as of yet, I have not really needed to use their support. And then the third con I would say is that the minimum investment amount is $100. And then once you have $100 invested, you can invest in increments of at least $10. For retirement accounts, the minimum investment amount is $500. So to summarize my opinion of M1 Finance, while I generally am not a fan of most new investing apps, I do think M1 Finance is unique in its portfolio approach to investing, in the way it executes trades, which I think forces investors to get into the right habits of focusing on the long term and not becoming active traders that are overly concerned with small fluctuations in the prices of the stocks that they own. I personally have a small investment account with M1 Finance that I think I'm going to add to with time. And here I should note that it's a good idea not to have all your investment accounts with a single brokerage. In case something happens with a brokerage, not all of your investments are tied up with that one brokerage. If you'd like to try out M1 Finance, it's a completely free service. And if you decide to do so and you'd like to support the channel, please use the link in the description below. The third broker that I want to talk to you about, you probably heard of, is Robinhood. Robinhood launched in 2013 and their claim to fame was having commission-free trades. Nowadays, commission-free trades are basically a standard in the industry, but they were sort of the pioneers of commission-free trades. Now, let's start with the pros of the Robinhood service. And now for the cons. The major con with the Robinhood service is the fact that it is designed to nudge you to trade at all times. They offer very little research tools. Because let's face it, Robinhood is not designed for the sophisticated investor. Everything about their app and everything about their user interface screams impulse trading and rash decision making. Whether it's the dramatic change in the price and the colors of the prices when they change, or the screen with confetti on it that you get when a transaction is completed, or the news feed that's on the main page and the news feed that's on the pages of individual stocks, or the lack of any meaningful portfolio view, and basically all the focus is on individual stocks. And when you combine this with the ability to make a trade within seconds, I think the combination is toxic for people's wealth. Now, one may ask, if Robinhood doesn't collect any commissions on trades, why does it have any interest in encouraging people to trade frequently? Well, remember how I explained to you how brokers have to make a decision between the profit they collect from order flow and the price improvement they pass on to customers? Well, according to Bloomberg News, half of Robinhood's revenue came from profit from order flow. According to the Wall Street Journal, Robinhood was making more cash from orders than rivals, up to a 60-to-1 ratio according to its regulatory filings. So when you're making so much money from orders, what do you want your customers to do? To put in more orders. So everything about the Robinhood app, I feel, is designed to make the users trade frequently. And this is hazardous to their wealth. It's hazardous to their returns. And frankly, I think it's promoting a gambling mentality when it comes to investing in equities. And it's getting people in the wrong investment habits. And the second major con of the Robinhood service is their implementation record. They had a security breach in 2019, wherein it was found that they were storing passwords in plain text. And then more recently, March 2nd of 2020, when the Dow experienced the largest point increase in history, their service went down, in addition to a slew of other issues that their service has experienced. So I would give them a dismal implementation record, and I would also give them a dismal grade for the design of their app as it relates to promoting healthy investment habits. So in summary, my review of the Robinhood app is that it brings a gambling casino mentality to investing in equities. It's not for long-term serious investors. I used Robinhood briefly and then I pulled out all my money from that app because I didn't feel like it was a healthy environment to have my money in. So that was my review of Fidelity, M1 Finance, and Robinhood. Again, Fidelity and M1 Finance are a go. On the other hand, Robinhood, you want to avoid like you avoid a rabid raccoon with a rusty syringe in its mouth with the virus that's going around nowadays. If you need halal funding and you live in the United States, make sure to go to fundmebff.com. If you're an investor and you're looking for an alternative investment and you earn more than $200,000 annually, go to fundmebff.com and apply to become an investor. Until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.